Tonight we saw Pathaan, the first Indian movie I've ever watched. And it was quite the thrill ride. Connor, what is Pathaan about?
Pathaan follows a spy action hero, Pathaan, who is going against his rival Jim. Jim is a former Indian secret agent along with Pathaan, but changes sides after he goes to Somalia and his pregnant wife is also in Somalia for some reason and gets shot with a machine gun in the belly
By Somali
pirates. But Pathaan doesn't want revenge Jimmy doesn't want revenge on Somalia, he wants revenge on India. So his plan is to steal smallpox and mutate it to be super strong smallpox that kill you in like 5 minutes with extreme pain.
Yeah, like turns into a fucking ghoul.
Jimmy and Pathaan fight it out a bunch of times. There's a girl who's a double agent, then a triple agent, then a quadruple agent. She's switching sides back and forth, and she's kind of Pathaan's love interest. And the movie's fucking wild. So Aiden, what did you think of Pathaan?
I don't know, man. Pathaan is basically Mission Impossible 2 and Fast and the Furious having an awkward Indian baby.
And a little Captain America Winter Soldier.
A little bit of that
Bit
too.
of James Bond at the end later.
Yeah.
And jetpacks.
It's
and
like
Cap. It's like 60s Bond.
Every American action movie was smushed together, but mostly Fast and the Furious and Mission Impossible 2 specifically. Because this movie roughly has like the same plot as Mission Impossible 2 with like a former secret agent who betrays his country and steals a super virus. But in this case, the Indian government is awful, and Jimmy didn't do anything wrong. They abandoned his ass out in Somalia and got his wife killed and didn't even go looking for him. Pathaan was his best friend, didn't even go looking for him. They just let him die. And then he somehow gets out of that situation and comes back and starts fucking shit up. And the Indian government is just completely incompetent. Pathaan runs around just trying to murder Jimmy all movie. And anytime something goes wrong, the Indian government just starts shooting missiles at civilians. Jimmy puts a pod with the virus on it on a plane, and the Indian government's like, well, see you boys. Starts firing missiles at the plane, trying to take it down, all while Jimmy and Pathaan are having a jetpack fight. All the action scenes are just completely unhinged, fucking Fast and the Furious nonsense. The first big action scene is they're fighting on the back of a truck, and then it hits a wall and they fly off and grab onto a zip line that's connected to 2 helicopters, and they're zipping back and forth and punching each other and kicking each other, and it goes on for like 20 minutes, and they're on the back of another truck and the helicopters are tied to the truck, and it's just all over the place. It's completely insane.
Tiger, Pathaan's brother comes to save him from Russian prison
That's
at one
something that
point,
happens.
and they're running on a train
And the
that
train's
gets hit by
flying
a
off a
helicopter
bridge.
because somebody shot an RPG. No, because they shot the plane down with 2 friggin' mounted machine guns.
The train's flying off a cliff, and
They managed to
Pathaan and
jump
Tiger
40
are
feet.
running across the back of the train as it falls off the cliff, and
Right.
it's just unhinged fucking Fast and the Furious action scene after Fast and the Furious action scene. And then at one point the movie just grinds to a halt and plays a 9-minute music video
Yep.
where the lead woman sings a extremely long song that has like 4 reprises and just like partially spoils the movie. And then the movie just continues from there like nothing happened, and I know that's normal in Indian movies, but it feels really weird to actually see it play out. Surprisingly, there's only 2 musical numbers in this, counting the credits, which is a low number for Indian movies, as I understand. But yeah, it's a wild thrill ride. It's completely unhinged. It looks kind of cheap, which is, I mean, that's just my American sensibilities. Talking about a Fast and the Furious knockoff made in a third world country, but yeah, it's something. It's really insane and wacky. And at the end, I couldn't help but walk away just feeling bad for Jimmy, because everyone just shat on Jimmy. And at the end, Pathaan just kills him in cold blood and is like, well, maybe you should have just got over it when those Somalian pirates shot your pregnant wife in the face.
Not in the
just
face,
murders
in
him.
the pregnant belly.
Yeah, and just murders him.
Really.
He just starts stomping on his fingers and drops him off a cliff.
Pathaan fucking cheated in that final fight. Jimmy got the best of him. Then the house was breaking from how hard they were fist fighting. And then Jimmy stole the remote and surprised him for a second, and the house rumbled. And then Jimmy fell and was hanging on for dear life, and then fucking Jimmy just stomped on his hands and let him die.
Yeah,
Or Pathaan stepped on Jimmy's hands.
It's like this wild globe-trotting adventure. Like, it goes to every fucking country.
Dubai, Paris, Spain,
Paris, Somalia,
Russia.
Fucking a lengthy segment in Russia where the Russian government
They're
thinks.
cooked on airplanes. And
Yeah, they do the fucking. It's just the fucking Mission Impossible fucking Ghost Protocol scene, but stupider.
yeah.
And then they climb down the side of the building and break in and steal the thing. It's unhinged. It's insane. It's wacky. It's fun. And fuck Pathaan. Jimmy didn't do anything wrong. So, Connor, what'd you think of Pathaan?
Pathaan is a wild movie. First off, the music in this is generally pretty good, like the scores. I'm not even talking about the music videos, which I guess the music was fine, but
I don't know anything
it's a
about
little
Indian
weird.
music,
I
so-
don't know much about Indian pop music, but it seemed to be Indian pop music. But Jimmy's score would come on anytime Jimmy was on the screen.
Oh yeah, the
remotely
second he
mentioned.
came on, it'd just be like, oh.
Jimmy's score was bad fucking ass, and they played it constantly. But it was kind of like Batman's theme in the Batman, where it's just like this epic dark theme, and they just played it blaring your ears out anytime Jimmy was even remotely on screen.
And Jimmy's on screen a lot. Every fucking 3 seconds that fucking thing would come on.
Right.
Jimmy would drop a fucking phone call and it'd start blasting.
This movie was 80% action scenes.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And all the action is really well done. It's pretty tight and short for a Bollywood movie. By American standards, it's long. It's 2.5 hours, but it's about the length of your average, like Fast and the Furious or Mission Impossible, the Transformers. But for India, it's pretty short. And it keeps a lightning pace and never gets boring.
Yeah, there's always some fucking wacky shit going on.
Jimmy shows up in a mask, and me not knowing anything about Indian cinema, I was confused as to whether this was a sequel or not. I don't think it was, but you have moments where there's times for pause where the audience claps.
Yeah,
and you kind of have this.
The Indian audience would know.
Right, this fight in Dubai is a lot like the fight in New York and Winter Soldier, where it's Cap and the Winter Soldier and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Even down to the point where Jimmy's mask is removed and there's a dramatic zoom in. We're supposed to know who this character is. Presumably this is a very famous actor.
Yeah.
So it zooms in like this is the most dramatic thing, holy fuck. And then later he explains that Jimmy was an old pal of his, but then he went to Somalia and his wife got shot in the belly or whatever.
Yeah, the thing is,
it was wild.
The movie acts like you should know who Jimmy is when you first see him, after he shoots a rocket launcher at a car, and after his mask pulls off, the fight scene goes on for another 15 minutes.
Right, the fight keeps going.
It just keeps going.
The
and
fight
then
was
after
already
that,
a solid like 20 minutes, and then it goes on for like an additional 15.
there's like the whole scene is like 3 car chases, like 5 fist fights, some dramatic dialogue,
gunfights,
helicopter stunts.
right? Because
It's all over.
Pathaan is like beat down, and his friend just blows up in a car, and Pathaan is beat up, and Jimmy takes off in a helicopter, and you think, well, that's it. There's no way he's gonna catch him. And then a second later, Pathaan's in a helicopter that seemingly came out of nowhere.
And he somehow gets a
And
zip
he
line
shoots
between
a
them.
zip line, and then they're fighting on the zip line, and they're fighting on some truck. And it's interesting because none of the traffic in Dubai seemed faded by this. This didn't cause like a mass gridlock that these helicopters are floating 20 feet off the ground and like zip lines everywhere, and
Dudes
they're jumping
rolling
on
back and
cars
forth on
and
trucks.
shooting fucking RPGs at each other and shit. This doesn't disrupt traffic at all. Everybody's just business as usual on both directions. No cops are really bothering to show up. They just completely uninterrupted
Completely
fuck up
insane.
Dubai, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And there's no repercussions. Jimmy,
Yeah, it's unhinged.
yeah, Pathaan breaks out of Russian prison, and there's no consequences to that. It's just weird. Everything in this movie is so bizarre. Like, he goes to Russian prison as, like, the cliffhanger before the intermission, and then he's in Russian prison for, like, 3 minutes, and he breaks out, and then there's a massive train fight with his brother Tiger, who inexplicably comes out of nowhere and then kind of disappears for the rest of the movie. Not kind of, disappears for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he reappears like when they're at the missile base, and then he just stops appearing a second time.
And a hilarious scene is when the scientists, they get one of the orbs that holds smallpox, and they accidentally unleash it, and it melts all of their hazmat suits. And then they're all gonna die, and Pathaan's really sad because they get like closed in, and there's like this like head of state lady at the agency who's in there with a bunch of nameless scientists. And as Pathaan walks away crying, you start hearing gunshots because they all start committing suicide to put themselves out of their misery, because for some reason there's just a gun sitting in this laboratory.
And then he blows the place up.
And then, like, while they're still shooting themselves, he blows the place up just to, like, triple down.
Yeah,
The
all
movie's
insane.
fucking unhinged. It's actually, like, probably, like...
It feels like
It makes Furious 7 look grounded.
it feels like someone fed a bunch of American action movie scripts to an AI, and it just spit this out, and they're like, yeah, good enough.
Right. And the thing is, this movie would have costed $400 million in America. India probably did it on like $30 million or less. I mean, I'm sure the stars get paid a hell of a lot less than American stars, but you gotta respect the ingenuity.
Yeah, it's just completely
The
insane.
stunt work and the CGI.
Some actually
Mostly look
decent,
good.
like,
There were some moments like the fucking helicopter looked like the helicopter escape when he like takes a helicopter vertically out of an
that shit looks
exploding
like a
building.
cartoon.
It looked a bit like the '98 Godzilla movie, like a Roland Emmerich movie from the late '90s, early 2000s, like Independence
Yeah, there's
Day or some shit. But
some wonky CGI scenes, but you know, the fight choreography was generally good too.
right, it didn't really take me out of the movie too, because I can. Like, Japan always has wonky CGI. Like, if it's not from the United States and Hollywood, you're probably going to get some shit CGI.
I'm not
So
sure
I
what
can
the
live with-
intended tone of this movie was, if it was like supposed to be kind of like wacky and funny, or if they were dead serious with this one. I
think it
genuinely
was
don't know.
A bit of... I don't think there's such thing. Like, there was a movie last year, Kashmir Files, and it was basically India's answer to Schindler's List. I didn't watch it, but I just know from the theater. And I like walked in and there were like dance scenes and shit. So even in like the fucking Schindler's List, it'd be like the fucking Holocaust people like dancing around. Like I just think culturally there's no such thing as a totally straightforward serious movie. I think tonally we're probably aligning ourselves with like Transformers.
Yeah.
Or
I think
Fast and the Furious, where it's like, it's supposed to be serious and you're supposed to take the drama serious, but...
The movie is just so wacky and weird that the CGI can't possibly bother me because I can't take the movie seriously.
Right.
And I think you're supposed to think it's like super badass, like Mission Impossible. But it just comes off as like this absurd, weird mashup of a billion different American action movies in the weirdest way. And just like, even conceptually, like, the villain's name, he's just like some Indian guy named Jimmy.
No, his name is Jim. I just started calling him Jimmy.
Well, yeah, but he's some Indian, it's not like some weird Indian name that sounds like Jim. It's Jim,
it's Jim.
He just has an English name.
James, Jimmy.
I don't know.
Jim.
I don't know why that's the case. If that's a common name in India, or if they were trying to make him sound American for whatever reason, which I assume is the case, because I don't think Jim. I don't know.
Well, the main character got his name from the Muslim religion, according to the movie.
Yeah, so I figured.
Which
Jim was like
I don't even know. Like, if I don't really like.
Hey, but he befriends a bunch of.
It's actually a Muslim name.
He befriends people in a Muslim village because
Afghanistan.
he saves them from a
They
missile by throwing a grenade at it.
Solo Star Wars story name origin for Pathaan.
Yeah, so I assume Jim has like a name origin like that we never got to see.
And maybe he started getting called Jim because his pregnant wife got shot. I don't know.
Maybe the Somalians named him Jim or something. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't
thought
know.
He was white.
What scenario ended Jim and his pregnant wife up in Somalia?
Romantic vacation.
To Somalia.
No, I really don't know. You start to question it. Like, did the Somalians like have a beef with Jim, and then flew out to India to steal his wife? Was Jim on a mission with his wife for some reason, who's 9 months pregnant? Did he go on vacation to Somalia?
And then
were they visiting the continent of Africa?
The tone gets really strange at the end. When the virus is on the plane and like there's like scenes of all the people on the plane like crying and hugging, and they're like, oh, we're all gonna die, and the Indian government is like, oh, sorry bros, we're just gonna have to blow you out of the sky to smithereens, it's just the way it has to be. And then like at the end everyone's just like, yeah, whatever, like once the government guys abort the missile because Pathaan stops the virus bomb, then the pilots are just like, oh, great, cool, back to it. And like Jim, at the end, before he gets murdered by Pathaan's like, well, maybe you should have just got over your wife getting shot and not been angry at the Indian government and just got over it, you pussy, and murders him in cold blood. I don't know. It feels very strange. It's a very strange moral conclusion to the story.
Right.
And it's not like there's no repercussions for any of this. At the end of the movie, the government guy comes up to Pathaan and he's like, I'm assembling a team. And I assume that there's going to be another one that's just like the Avengers of Pathaan.
That's
something.
Kind of the implication.
It's something. I have never seen a movie like this before. I can safely say that.
Right. I don't know. It's weird.
It was weird.
Aiden, would you recommend Pathaan?
I'm gonna give this one a yes. It's really fucking weird. And I don't know if like I had more exposure to Indian movies that I would find this less weird. But it's just this really bizarre, wacky, funny, strange movie that I had a lot of fun with. Yeah, it's really something. It's really something, and I'm gonna say yes. Connor, would you recommend Pathaan?
Yes, I would also recommend Pathaan. It's an experience, and I loved it. I don't know how much Bollywood movies this is going to convince me to watch.
Not many.
Not many.
But if there's a Pathaan 2, I'll be there.
I'll be there for Pathaan too. Sure. I'll keep my eyes peeled. Maybe I'll start to delve into Indian action cinema. I don't know. I thought this is wildly entertaining.
Yeah, this was like a fucking trip.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I also thought it was kind of a palatable amount of time. It's not like a 3-hour investment.
It's a fast-paced
If you like
movie.
Fast and the Furious, Mission Impossible type movies, you're looking at about a similar time investment to the newer movies, so about 2.5 hours. And
It's fast-paced as hell.
it's on the dumbness scale, it's somewhere between. It lies closer to Furious 7
Yeah.
than
Oh, yeah.
anything, but it's fun.
They got some Furious 7 vibes.
You're gonna have some culture shock when you watch like the music video in the middle that they randomly slapped in.
The 9-minute music video.
The 9-minute music video. But the action scenes are fun, and I was fucking screaming at the screen. I was having a blast.
Yeah, it's fun.
I recommend it. Good luck finding it in most U.S. theaters, but
Next week is 80 for Brady, baby.
next week is Knock at the Cabin and 80 for Brady.